Coming up on the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast, a transformative project in Fort Wayne continues to take shape. An Indiana smartphone case maker sees success. An artisan distillery mixes things up. Crews break ground on one of the biggest projects in Bloomington history. A coding program aims to help ex-offenders find work. A look at the governor's workforce development plans. And a cast of chickens and goats attracts a following. Welcome to the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast. I'm Andy Ober. The city of Fort Wayne is taking on one of its most ambitious projects to date. Hopes are high for the $440 million electric works development at the former General Electric campus. Organizers have made their first big hire, Managing Director of Innovation Crystal Van Wallstrom. She and Green Street Limited managing partner Jeff Kingsbury joined host Gary Dick to talk about the effort.
Jeff, I'm going to start with you. Green Street, one of the development partners on this massive project. The history of General Electric in Fort Wayne, for those around the state who may not know, is unbelievable. This campus once had some 20,000 employees.
It did, yes. It was an economic engine for the state and the region. 20,000 people at its peak in 1944 during World War II. 132 years of manufacturing and innovation history. We're going to build on that history and really help lead us into the future.
Have some fascinating old photographs there. There's the iconic General Electric logo and sign that for many years lit up the sky in Fort Wayne. Talk about this Electric Works project, because It really does reinvent, if you will, innovation in Northeast Indiana.
It does. Our vision is to create, through a public-private partnership, a mixed-use district of innovation, energy, and culture, infused with this inventive history of Fort Wayne and the region, to include a mix of uses, as you said, office, retail, residential, hospitality, innovation, and institutional, to drive talent and jobs.
And talent, innovation is a big piece of this. Crystal Van Wallstrom, the Managing Director of Innovation at Electric Works. Talk about your responsibilities and what specifically you're going to be focused on there.
So for the next few months, I'm going to be focused on developing a strategy for the space. We have about 83,000 square feet, and what we want to do is create that public-private partnership between universities, industry, the nonprofit community, and the startup community to really create those collisions and those partnerships that really drive our economy forward.
So collaboration is going to be key. Talk about, and you're brand new, a week on the job, but talk about the interest that you're seeing, especially from academic institutions, the private sector, and others in the project.
There's a lot of interest. I don't think we've heard from anyone who's not interested. At this point, it's trying to figure out the role that each of them will play. What degree programs, what research they're working on, what's their workforce, what are the workforce needs of the industry, and how can we align those together?
Yeah. Jeff, this is obviously a very ambitious project. I know you've received some funding. Where do things stand now? You're going to start remediation. When can we expect to see construction begin on that first phase?
Well, we're going to see activity soon. We're going to begin environmental remediation with a site that's had 132 years of manufacturing history. There is some environmental cleanup that needs to be taken. We're working with the state on that. But construction will start during the summer, and then it's probably 2 years of construction. So we're expecting first occupancies in 2020.
Every community in the state, every region is focused on keeping talent and attracting talent. Now, this is a big piece of that. What can the impact, as you look out 5, 10 plus years, of this project be?
You know, it's a great question, and a couple things just to keep in mind. One is that Electric Works is really a manifestation of what this community said they wanted to do, really going back now 10 years. Started with some initial regional planning and focus on job growth, talent attraction, and growing the region. And so Electric Works really gives us the opportunity to coalesce a lot of those strategies in one place. But it's about talent, it's about jobs, and ultimately it's also going to change the neighborhood as well as downtown.
Yeah. Crystal, what attracted you to this development? This is a big development in Fort Wayne, a big job, what attracted you to it?
Well, I remember moving here in 2015 and just driving by and seeing this campus with these beautiful but, sad buildings, and I just saw a vision for what it could become. In the last year and a half, I've been working in the entrepreneur community, and I really see that as a driving force for us going forward. And this project is really kind of a blank canvas in some ways, but at the same time, it's really building on our history, but also taking into account where we're going in the future. And so I love the big, audacious project and having the opportunity to be involved as a transplant to Fort Wayne from San Francisco is really just a remarkable experience.
All right, it is a major project. So much going on in Fort Wayne right now. A lot of momentum downtown. Electric Works to begin construction here in the summer months, so we'll be following the project. Jeff Kingsbury from Green Street, Crystal Van Wallstrom, the new Managing Director of Innovation. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks,
All
Gary.
right.
Still to come, an artisan distillery is mixing up its business, and a massive Bloomington project is underway. But first, Noblesville-based smartphone case maker Scooch has big growth plans for 2018. Goals include getting into 15,000 stores and nearly tripling revenue. Co-founders Matt Foley and John Staggy joined us in studio with more.
First of all, great concept. You talk about innovation happening in Indiana. This really did bubble up here in Indiana. Matt, talk about Scooch, what it's all about. It's a pretty simple idea that seems to be catching on.
Sure. So our primary product for Scooch is the Wingman product, which is what we really started with. What's cool and unique about it is that with this bistable spring, you can simply open it, use your phone as in a kickstand in a portrait mode, also in a landscape mode for watching videos, Netflix, whatnot. It also works as a standalone car mount in most vehicles horizontally. And then lastly, as a grip to handle these bigger phones. That's really what has been unique about our first product.
And it's caught on, got traction. How many stores are you in now?
We're in 5,700 retail locations right now, Gary.
And what's driven that, really?
I think it's really just been about simple functionality, bringing something to market that's different and unique, and people are using their phones more. The phone is the new TV. So giving them an easy way to be able to watch their videos and use it in their day-to-day lifestyle.
John, talk about how this idea came about.
Great, thanks, Gary. Really, I sold my first company back in 2012. I was doing a lot of stuff for about 20 years out of marketing and importing business in the tool industry. And we got bought out by a private equity firm out in New York, and we were trying to merge with another company down in Jasper. And I was on the transition team. And I got out of it, and I tried to retire, and I was a really terrible retiree. I was a terrible retiree.
So you had the idea, you guys came together, and obviously growing in a nice way. This year, some ambitious goals, including some new products, right?
Yes, we've got a couple of new products right now. We're going to be coming out with a wallet case that doesn't look like a wallet. And we've put some innovation in it for a thing we call cool charge. Right now, wireless charging is very hot with the new iPhone coming out with wireless charging. And the big things with being in the mount category as we are and putting on the magnetic mounts is that it stops the wireless charging. So actually, Matt came to me one day, he goes, how about this? We put some variations of these wires in there. So I put some paper clips and tried it, and then we started water jetting some stuff at a company just down the street, and it actually worked. And so this is a big topic, and it's a big thing for the cellular phone buyers out there in the retail stores to have something that's different that works with the current phones, because that's a big problem right now.
Young company, started just I think 2014. That's right. Launched. You got some big plans this year. Talk about growth plans and how you see that rolling out.
Sure. So we started off our first year. Started actually selling in 2015. In the last quarter, had about $250,000 in revenues that year. The next year, we had about 10 times that number to $2.5 million. This past year, we finished at $3.5 million. We expect that to really grow. We've got some new accounts that we just got into in the wireless industry that are really going to catapult us, I believe, into that massive growth that we're looking for this year.
Targeting 15,000 stores globally, perhaps on 3 continents in the year ahead. So Matt Foley, John Staggy, congratulations. Scooch is the idea, crafted here in Indiana and growing. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Gary.
All right.
Later on the podcast, ground breaks on a nearly $400 million Bloomington project, and a high-tech effort aims to help ex-offenders find work. But now, Hotel Tango Artisan Distillery came on the scene in Indianapolis almost 4 years ago, and now it's getting into the farming and event space business. The distillery recently purchased a farm, barn, and 5 acres. Vice President and co-founder Brian Wilsey joined IIB to discuss the big plans.
Step back to 2014, September, Hotel Tango Artisan Distillery, the first distillery since Prohibition in Indianapolis.
Here in Indianapolis, that's right. Yeah, we're looking forward to entering year 4, and we built the foundation there at the tasting room on Virginia Avenue and Fletcher Place, and now we've really started to expand our footprint here in Indiana, and throughout the state.
Talk about distribution, first of all, of your products and how you've grown that around the state and actually beyond.
Absolutely. We're in over 750 locations here in Indiana, along with Michigan, Ohio, Kentucky, and Central South Texas. Along with our newest addition is the military bases throughout the United States.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that expansion in a moment. But first, let's get back to really diversification, if you will. Buying a farm, got a barn, a farm. What's the idea there?
Right. I think a lot of it is to kind of help with growing some of our own crops for the tasting room. We do a lot of seasonal stuff, can get expensive at times. So we thought this would be a great substitute to add a real grain to glass, or even leaf to glass, as we like to call it, option.
Yeah, talk about the location. It's a lot of snow right now, so it's, I'm sure, a lot more scenic in the summer and spring months.
Very nice, very nice. It's on northbound 65 there at the Keystone exit. You can see the barn for about a quarter of a mile coming up into the city, which is a nice addition. And we're going to continue to renovate the property. We got a nice Airbnb house on the property that's now available, and we're looking forward to continue to make the farm kind of our new home.
You're getting into the event space business too, right?
It was inevitable. We were booking the current location on Virginia Avenue so much that we really had to start expanding that side of the business. We had an opportunity to grow our production space, and then on top of that, layer in an event space. So the 16th and Monon area is where we've put that new location.
Yeah. Talk about demand and interest, because I know this is brand new, but already that interest is pretty high.
It's coming at us real quick, almost too quick. So we had to plan a lot in advance for this, and we just opened this past summer the location, and we're already booking up weddings and corporate events, along with starting a new production facility over there. It's a lot of fun. A lot of expansion, because you're looking at a military expansion too. You're distributing in the top 15 Navy exchanges, and you're looking to grow that. We are. Now that we've spent a year, now 2 years, kind of laying a foundation with some of these new locations, distribution is going to be a laser focus for us in the coming years as we grow out into the nation, specifically in the Navy bases, Coast Guard, Marines, and hopefully the Army Air Force. What do you see as you look going forward, growth opportunities, obviously in distribution? Where do you see the next 5 to 10 years? Well, we really want to take this thing to the next level, is what our focus is for the next 5 to 10 years, making Hotel Tango not only an Indiana brand, but a national brand, possibly an international brand, and I think that's where we're going to stay focused on. All right, Brian Wilsey from Hotel Tango Artisan Distillery, thanks very much. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you, Gary.
You can catch Inside Indiana Business Television on stations throughout the state every weekend. Head to InsideIndianaBusiness.com to check listings. Still to come, a coding program for prison inmates and Governor Holcomb's big worker training goals. But first, officials have broken ground on what Bloomington Mayor John Hamilton calls the largest single economic development investment in the city's history. The $389 million IU Health Regional Academic Center will include a new hospital and academic and research facilities. IU Health Director of Clinical Integration and Activation Michael Melby joined Barb Lewis in the Business of Health.
So let's talk a little bit about the new model of healthcare, because we heard that repeatedly at the groundbreaking ceremony. What does that really mean in the context of this project?
Well, I'm so excited for the community, because it does give us an opportunity to think about doing things differently. Our executive architect, HOK, suggested to us when we started, let's not bring you a design. You think about working with your community, how you want to provide care in the next 25 to 50 years, and we'll build you an infrastructure to support that. So many people from the community, many business leaders, many healthcare leaders got together over 2 days and brainstormed, what can we do differently? And healthcare has opportunities for improvement. It's expensive, and so we have really brainstormed how we want to do things differently.
Before we talk about more about the actual center and the healthcare that will be provided there, what about the old Bloomington Hospital? What will happen to that site?
So the mayor and the leadership of the hospital came together just recently and discussed selling the building to the city. We will demolish it and return it to green space, and the city is looking at developing it economically and is quite excited about what opportunity that 24 acres can provide for the city.
Okay, now back to the new site, 735,000 square feet.
Right, so the hospital proper is 620,000 square feet, and we're building a health sciences center. That's the most exciting exciting development that happened in our journey is that President McRobbie from Indiana University offered us the opportunity to build the new facility on Indiana University's campus. And so their building will be 115,000 square feet, and it will join the faculty and students and caregivers in the schools of medicine and nursing and social work and speech and hearing to provide an integrated education opportunity for students in those disciplines.
So what will be unique about this facility? Obviously, having the academic center attached, it will be unique, especially for Bloomington. But in terms of the health care that's delivered and how it's delivered, where's the innovation in this?
You know, I think if you just look at the name, is we're going from a community hospital to a regional academic health center. And what does becoming a regional academic health center mean? It means an emphasis on research and on education and on training new clinicians to provide care in a different team-based kind of a way. And so I think it offers the community, I would like to say we're going to up our game. We're going to do things in a way that's continuously learning. We're going to provide some physical amenities that are different for patients. We're going to have all private rooms where we have some semi-private rooms now. We're going to bring up many disciplines onto the campus that are not on the campus. So I think it's going to be a more convenient, more enjoyable patient and family experience to have the ambulatory clinics and the diagnostics and the procedures all in one place. It'll be more convenient. It'll be more efficient. And so I think the patients are going to find that this is a much, much different experience than they've had in the past.
Okay, so one last question. Let's talk a little bit about timeline now. So groundbreaking, it's been years in the planning, and now you're at the groundbreaking time. What's the timeline then towards completion?
So we anticipate first patient in December of 2020. And so there's really two major initiatives that are going on. The building project, we anticipate now that groundbreaking has occurred, being in the ground first quarter of 2018. I think that as you drive by the facility, you'll see some steel coming out of the ground by the last quarter of 2018. And the second major initiative is working with physicians and nurses and other caregivers to successfully occupy the building in 2020. So to think about what that care model is going to look like and to develop the processes and procedures to make sure that we're successful for our patients and our families on day one.
Well, sure, it has been a big news week for Bloomington, and thank you so much, Michael Milby, for being here.
We're very excited. Thanks for having me.
Later in the podcast, the state sets its sights on beefing up its workforce, and an Indiana-made TV show gains popularity. But now, Indiana is the second state in the nation to use a prison inmate coding program that has drawn praise from the likes of the Obama administration and Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg. Inside Indiana business reporter Mary Rachel Redman has more on the Last Mile program.
Earlier this week, as part of Governor Holcomb's Next Level agenda for 2018, he introduced the Last Mile, a program designed to provide prison inmates with software engineering training. The San Francisco-based nonprofit that's drawn praise from the likes of Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg has successfully launched its platform in 5 California prisons. Now offenders from the Indiana Women's Prison in Indianapolis will be the first inmates in the country outside of the Golden State to get that golden opportunity to participate in the Last Mile.
We have been approached by a lot of different states throughout the country. Indiana really stepped up. They understood our mission. They really wanted to do something and be the first state outside of California. Governor Holcomb has been hugely supportive. So it was really a combination of the right support, the commitment, and understanding our mission.
Kenyatta Leal, who served 19 years in prison for being an ex-felon in possession of a firearm, is one of the founding members of the Last Mile. He says the program simply gave him hope.
I had gone through a lot of different changes in my life, and I was reluctant to ask for help. But when I did, it came in the form of the Last Mile, and it helped me transform my hustle. I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit, but the Last Mile has helped me channel that in a positive direction. It's where I'm an asset and not a liability to my community.
This is the lab inside of the Indiana Women's Prison, where the inmates will learn the computer curriculum developed by the Last Mile. As of this week, prison officials tell me as many as 60 inmates have expressed interest in the program that will accept 15 to 20 students in its first cohort, likely to start in April.
The program has really taken off since then. It's helping change people's lives, teaching them 21st century job skills so that when they leave incarcerated settings, that they can enter the job market and help break the cycle of incarceration for themselves, their families, and the community.
Well, it's working in California, and the results speak for themselves. They're transforming lives and not just drawing down that recidivism rate, but helping people live and lead productive lives.
Mary Rachel Redman, Inside Indiana Business.
Still to come, an Indiana production company is using a unique cast for its TV shows. But first, Governor Eric Holcomb's second State of the State address put a heavy focus on workforce and educational initiatives. He's looking to launch a work-based learning apprenticeship office and add tens of thousands of training opportunities. KSM Location Advisors President Katie Culp and CEO Tim Cook take a look at the plans in our Eye on Economic Development segment.
We've been talking, everybody's been talking about Amazon and this mega project, 50,000 jobs, whatever the number is, huge. Top 20 list, the final 20 list, I guess Indianapolis on the list. Any surprise to you? Any takeaways?
You know, the fact that there were 20 finalists and we made the list, it doesn't surprise me, especially if you look at some of the other cities that are of like size, Columbus, Nashville. But I mean, how exciting for the city and the state that they have made this cut. From the beginning, this has been about survive and advance, and they got to the next round.
Yep. Katie, your take.
You know, I'm so excited for the city and the region, but I was pleasantly surprised. I think that while we all know and love Indianapolis, I'm not sure that at a national level that is the same level of awareness. And when you look at the cool factor of some of these cities, even the like-sized one, Austin or Nashville, it's just, I'm just thrilled that we made the cut, and I think it says a lot about the product that we offer.
Yeah, a lot of people, and maybe it's downplaying expectations, but a lot of people are saying, hey, it's going to be a long shot for Indianapolis to land this thing. The decision will be made later this year at some point. From an Indianapolis standpoint, and maybe other cities on that final 20 list, what happens now? I mean, do you try to tweak and to modify and to do things to try to get on that next cut?
Well, I think Amazon is going to do their own due diligence now. There will probably be interviews, maybe on site, visiting sites. From Indianapolis' standpoint, they've obviously got a solid bid out there, so I think it's about making sure that you accentuate what the positives are, and it's kind of full steam ahead.
Yeah, and Katie, it's been talked about before, but regardless of the outcome, you don't want to be defeatist here, but regardless of the outcome, putting that bid in, getting on the final 20 list may be better. Even if Indianapolis doesn't get it, is that exercise a good thing?
I totally think it is. And the fact that we made it to the top 20, I mean, we've got some structural challenges which could be overcome, but are certainly big obstacles to win a project of this size. But now we're on the map, and now other, even large projects, but obviously smaller than this gigantic one, are going to be looking at Indianapolis too. It really credentializes us as a location.
Yeah, and I think to that point, a city like Minneapolis, everybody thought they were going to be part of the top 20. They did not make it.
Interesting, yeah.
So Indianapolis has some bragging rights that, you know, cities like Detroit, Cleveland, Cincinnati are not going to be able to say those things.
Yep, very good. Well, let's move on to Governor Holcomb's second State of the State address. Last year, unveiling his legislative agenda, got much of what he talked about. Your takeaway from this year's address?
Gary, it seemed like it was a lot about workforce. The speech was maybe 30 minutes. He spent 8 of it on workforce development. So I think that's where it should be. He's called it the defining issue of this decade, and I think the governor and the state agencies that have an impact on that are going to spend a lot of time on that in the next year.
Yeah, Katie, your big takeaway.
Well, I think I'm thrilled that that is a focus, because it's a need at all levels of our economy and workforce, whether it's the opioid addiction problem with certain types of work, well, it really crosses all of them, or the high skill need for additional development of tech talent or what have you. I mean, it kind of crosses the board. I hope that as part of this, I mean, so much money is fueled into this initiative, but there are a lot of silos, there are hundreds of programs and organizations, and I hope a lot of intention and thoughtfulness is given towards making it easier to use and really allowing employers and employees and government to kind of go towards a common goal.
Is that the big challenge, really? Because, you know, your workforce, huge issue, kind of an obvious one, putting a lot of money toward it, but getting that coordinated effort, whatever you want to call it, more of a laser focus to make the training programs more effective.
Yeah, I mean, the challenge is, how do you take funding that you've appropriated and then translate that into results? It's something that every state struggles with, and Indy Indiana and the city have a low unemployment rate, so now the challenge is how do we raise income levels and do some of those other workforce
The
issues.
stakes for being successful, from an economic development standpoint, if the state is not successful in addressing workforce, is it something that can really begin to have an impact on deals?
Yeah, it does, especially when you look at like the tech sector, warehouse distribution, some of these parts of the economy that are really struggling to find workers.
Yep.
That's where I think you can make a big difference.
All right. The governor also talked about jobs, wants the state, the Indiana Economic Development Corporation, to really ramp up efforts. They've had very good numbers, record level numbers in recent years. Want to really ramp that up.
Yeah, I think they have had the benefit of a wonderful economy to be operating into, but the IEDC has done a great job and been really aggressive with projects. But to get from, I think it was, 30,000 to 35, that's going to require a lot of proactive and thoughtful steps forward. You can't sit back and relax about it.
Yep. What did he not say? I'll start with you first.
Yeah, it was interesting. He didn't talk a lot about the social issues that have gotten a lot of attention, whether it's Sunday sales, whether it's permits and guns, marijuana, medical marijuana. I think that's been the right approach because it served him well last year to keep a focus on the blocking and tackling type of issues and to stay away from some of the more controversial issues.
Yeah, so Katie, that focus would seem to indicate that he's focused on jobs, the economy, workforce, those issues.
Yeah, it seems a lot more reminiscent of like the Daniels administration than say the Pence administration. But so I think that's great. And I think if we continue to focus on making us a good place to locate in, that's probably a good place to spend our time.
All right, very good. Great perspective as always, and we'll continue to follow, obviously, this Amazon story as well. Katie Culp, Tim Cook, KSM Advisors, thanks very much.
Thanks, Gary.
All right.
And finally this week, a cast of chickens and now goats has captured quite the following, thanks to an Indiana production company. The TV series Coop Dreams is in its 4th season, and Coops for Troops has just begun. Faded Jeans Productions partner Brad Hodder came in to tell us what it's all about.
You're the men's soccer coach
right.
at DePaul University
Correct.
in Greencastle. How did a soccer coach get into the video production world?
Yeah, fortunate to be in a unique set of circumstances. Back in the late 90s and early 2000s, I was asked to be the spokesperson for Keep America Beautiful on a driving a lawnmower across the United States campaign. And on the end of that, it had gotten so much media attention that Lauren Michaels' production company asked about doing a show. And I at that time, I had 4-year-old twins. I couldn't leave for New York or LA. And so we decided to settle that production company here. The sponsors of that trip jumped on board, and we actually began a production company here.
Talk about Coop Dreams, what it's all about. Chickens, right?
It is, yeah. When you're serving in this role of spokesperson for a charity that talks about sustainability and recycling, it gets into you and you have to really kind of reevaluate your life. And so one of the things that I needed to do is I wanted to get off the grid, try and find a healthier lifestyle, grow my own food, and couldn't really find the resources to learn about raising chickens, goats, bees. And we had this idea about putting this, that we can't be the only ones that are struggling to find this out. So we had the idea of this show, and we're very fortunate that Discovery gave us airtime.
Yep. So you got that, and now in its 4th season, so you're getting a lot of traction there. But Coops for Troops, which is a new venture, started out as an idea maybe to do a show segment. The therapeutic value, if you will, of chickens, it's really turned into something special.
Yeah, it's crazy. Who would have thought of that? But we were down, we had a shoot for Coop Dreams down in Austin, Texas, and we were taken to a nursing home that used chickens as therapy animals. And we started to see how both the chickens and the residents benefited from this relationship. And as we looked into it, we found that with autistic children, it was very impactful, and that chickens can relieve loneliness, depression, PTSD, and that immediately leads you to the military. So we started as a segment within Coop Dreams, giving away a chicken, a coop, and supplies to a worthy veteran. And the response was so great that it became its own show. And we're very fortunate that our partners, Nutrina, Troy-Bilt, have jumped on and said, yes, we believe in that. And we actually shoot our 10th one tomorrow here in Indianapolis. And we're fortunate that some networks have picked it up and carried it.
Yeah, we'll talk about that and the acceptance. You're shooting here in Indianapolis, but you're shooting all over the country. It's really gaining a lot of traction.
It is. I think we've had a couple in Tennessee, Virginia, Michigan, Iowa, and so it's nice to have one here in Indianapolis where we not not only don't have to travel, but get to thank a local veteran for their service and sacrifice.
Only have 25 seconds, Brad, but where do you see things going from here? You've got a lot of irons in the fire.
Yeah. Well, a national championship at the PAW is one.
Okay, absolutely.
And then would love to see us be able to continue to grow Coop Dreams and Coops for Troops and make a bigger impact in both backyard homesteading and thanking veterans.
All right. Brad Hodder is the co-creator of Coop Dreams, also Coops for Troops, gaining traction around the country. And Brad, as always, thanks very much. Thank you soon.
That wraps up this week's Inside Indiana Business television podcast. Remember, you can find all of this week's TV segments, as well as the top business news from throughout the state, at InsideIndianaBusiness.com. While you're there, you can also subscribe to our platform of free e-newsletters. This is Andy Ober for Inside Indiana Business.